Hi, my name is Susan Constantine, and I am a body language expert and leadership coach.
Okay, everyone get a really good look at your partner next to you, because I'm going to tell you if that person's going to lie to you.
Body language expert specializing in human behavior and facial recognition, Susan Constantine.
Well, my general conclusion is when I looked at both the photographs, there was a high level of similarity. I've had over 1,000 national appearances on television. I'm asked every day almost to be on some show or to be quoted in a magazine. And the reason why they do that is because out of all of the experts out there, I give them content, good content every single time that's consistent, reliable, and accurate.
In this case, what I felt like when I was watching it is that it was just, shooting bullets. Okay, oops, that person now, right when they said this, that person did that. Oops, now this is when he did this, that's an indicator of lying. Oops, when he did this, that's an indicator of lying. To me, it's actually embarrassing, Richard, to see that happening, and I've seen this before, is that people that are even psychologists. Now, I have a master's in psychology as well. But just because you have a degree in psychology does not mean that you learn how to detect deception. That's a completely different skill that takes intensive training in investigative, interrogative interviewing. It takes a person that has worked within the criminal industry to be able to see how criminals or individuals, how they lie. Mm-hmm. And, you need to have that sort of baseline yourself. Not just, you read a book or you went to school and you learned a little bit about communication. It's preposterous to me. This particular evaluator's expertise, from what I understand, was in coupled in dealing with people that have issues with depression.
Most clients come to me because they're suffering from a little bit of depression. So something in their lives isn't working out and they're hoping to change it.
Okay. Far-reaching into the understanding the criminal mind. That's a whole different realm. It's like saying, just because I'm a surgeon, that I could perform heart surgery and brain surgery just because I have the name surgeon. They are completely opposite, polar opposites of one another, and detecting deception in itself is a specialized field.
Sarah Michael Novia is a behavioral expert who has studied this video, and she's going to tell us whether Orlando Anderson was being honest.
When I've testified in court, I've even testified, Your Honor, I have a psychology degree, although my degree has nothing to do with my training and to be able to read and interpret body language and detecting deception. It is a specialized skill. You need to spend at least 1,000 hours in that specific training, and also using it in the field, and then testing your own hypothesis and your skill level to increase your level of accuracy in detecting deception. So with that being said, investigative, interrogative interviewing, cognitive interviewing, investigative, as an investigative interviewing and working with suspects and witnesses and multiple different types of criminal cases. I was trained by the Institute of Analytic Interviewing, trained by the leaders globally in detecting deception.
What does it mean when a person repeats the question?
That person is generally trying to think of what the answer is supposed to be. Just his name, and he's already getting a little bit anxious.
Orlando, tell me, Tupac's mother filed a lawsuit Friday.
One of the things I think that concerns me a little bit about this, not only just the brevity of the clips from the interview itself, but you've got to understand, this guy was sitting there. This is a guy who has already been accused of murder. He's already been picked up. He's already been arrested.
Yes, it's, first of all, in order to detect whether something's being truthful or not, you also have to take into account the environment. Would a person feel anxious or nervous being in an environment where they're being interviewed for something high stakes, especially a murder case where the person that's being questioned is a subject or a person of interest?
Does he appear to know more than what he's telling here?
Oh, so much more.
And that really concerned me because one of the things that were pointed out was that the subject averted their eyes.
And he couldn't maintain that eye
He
contact?
would not maintain the eye contact.
So that suggests mistruths as well, because generally when someone is telling the truth, it's pretty easy to maintain eye contact.
Based on evaluating truthfulness and detecting deception by Dr. Matt Tomolo out of San Francisco State University, he wrote an article that came out that was trained in the U.S. Department of Justice through the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and it really debunked a lot of the things that she mentioned, and it was shocking to me. In research, we found that there's 22 out of 23 peer-reviewed research articles that have debunked that theory. That averting eyes is not a signal or a sign of deception. Rather, locking eyes on a person when they're being interviewed is more a deceptor or an indicator of deception, not averting eyes or looking up or looking down. That's processing. So there were several instances where the evaluator was making these assumptions based on single clues, smirking or smiling.
Okay, so right about here is where the sly smiling starts.
The number one emotion that a deceptive person, we found in research, shows is fear, not joy or smirking. Smirking is smugness, but I would be looking more for fear responses. So
I mean, yeah, I mean, he could have been smiling. For all we know, he could have been smiling because he was just, I can't believe I'm actually sitting here talking about this. That's
exactly. People, and when they're in stressful situations, like if they're going to a funeral or something that's not funny, and they're in a stressful situation, people mask that with smiles.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So that is some people do that. So that's actually there's a term for it. It's called Othello error. It's where a person will give you deceptive indicators, being truth, and they're 100% truthful. So it's really important for anyone, and really good investigators know that they have to consider the environment is stressful. And then also with you interviewing someone is going to create more anxiety. That I would be looking for a person that was overly calm
right.
in those situations.
Right.
So the evaluator was making these assumptions based on single clues, smirking or smiling, averting eyes, licking their lips or swallowing.
Did you see that? The hard swallow is very indicative of some kind of guilty behavior.
Those are single gestures or
Sure.
single indicators. And
Sure.
in order to detect deception based on the research, scientific research, you must have them happen in clusters. So to point out the fact that a person stopped and repeated the question, that's called repeated assertion, that's buying time.
So that's the first example of him sort of repeating the question. That person is generally trying to think of what the answer is supposed to be. Just his name, and he's already getting a little bit anxious.
But that's not an indicator of deception. It just means that they're buying time. We don't know why they're buying time. So that means nothing without other clues. So you have to tie in what a person says and look for a minimum of 2 to 3 different indicators that cluster together within a 5-second period of when a question or a stimulus question is delivered. For example, did you kill Tupac? Then you would see a deceptive person may lick their lips, lock eyes, stammer and stutter, or repeat the question. That's a cluster. Those are 3 and 4 different indicators, which gives you a higher level of validity that the person might be being deceptive. I did not see that in this interview.
Now, for example, by contrast, when we look at the Patton interview, and we notice when Danny Patton would answer the question and, he would tap his finger, we saw that repeated gesture over and over again, and in fact, we baselined when he would tell the truth. so that we could show people the difference between when you're telling the truth that you don't have that physical reaction, that leakage, versus when you have a person who is lying and then we see the leakage. We showed the baseline here, and one of the things that amazed me was that they took absolutely no time to develop a baseline with Orlando Anderson, you know, and with 6 hours, you would think they would.
Exactly. And so, you know, I can only speak to what research states. So everything that I do is based on research. So it's not just subjective opinion. It's objective, and it's founded by strong data that's proven to be true or untrue. Okay. So speaking to what you're talking about, and that's part of in order to analyze whether someone's being deceptive or not, is you have to find a particular person's pattern.
And I don't know if you agree with this or not, but it struck me that they tried to make the picture fit the frame. You know, they wanted to paint Orlando Anderson as a liar. And, you know, for the record, I want to get your agreement on this too. That when we asked you to analyze the patents, we did not ask you to endorse any particular point of view. I think it's safe to say that I came to you with it. I said, just tell me what you think. And there was no agenda in this, and I really want to put that out there because that's your and my integrity on the line. That you know, I didn't come to you with, hey, we need to prove that these guys were liars. Hey, we needed to come with an agenda. You know, with that it was clearly it was a gamble. I mean, honestly, I didn't know what you were going to say. I didn't know if you were going to come back with, hey, you know what, they're telling the truth, because I just wanted to know. You know, it's worth it to stop investigating something if they're telling the truth. If they're innocent, why are we going to keep shaking them down? You know, that's really the important thing here, and that's what I felt was missing in the setup. This is an interview that's never been done before. Well, let's hear the interview, and then let's get the lady's opinion on it, rather than just here's the interview with a liar. Let's show why he's lying. You know, that's.
Yeah, and if you remember too, Richard, when those videos came over to me, I went through it with a fine-tooth comb, and I went through it second by second, frame by frame. I also used the Jury Lab emotion response technology,
right?
And I used that as well to be able to have the artificial intelligence technology pick up on emotional responses of both the subjects, so that we could tie it into their context. So the way I approach this, and this is what I discussed with you, is that I wanted the objective and the subjective. So when you're dealing with just subjective opinion, there's always going to be room for bias. And I think that's really what we're looking at, is that, okay, you know, would a so-called expert be unbiased and give you their truthful analysis based on their own subjectivity of what they're watching? So, you know, there's a lot of room for human error there. And unless you really know what you're looking for, you're going to make errors. And that's why we use a combination of both.
Well, do you think, Ben Crump, he's been a civil litigator for, years and years and years and years. He's been involved with massive jury selections. Wouldn't you suggest that he would know the difference? Does that say anything about, about his knowledge? I would think he would know the difference, wouldn't you?
Well, you know what? I have to disagree with that, Richard. Okay. And the reason why I disagree with that is because I find that attorneys, judges, in fact, the research backs it up, that are at 50% at best at flipping a coin and detecting the credibility or truthfulness of another person. And as you know, my courses have been certified in over 35 states in the U.S. I've trained. My number one clients of mine are attorneys. So I train attorneys, mediators, federal court judges, and our Department of Defense how to detect deception. Why? Because they're not all that good at it. It's a 50% at best, a flipping of a coin to detecting deception. It is a specialized skill. So even though he was a very skilled attorney, very successful attorney, it does not mean that he has a high ability to detecting whether you're being duped or not.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, we'll cut Ben a break on that one then. Sounds to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I think the safe statement to make here in kind of summing up and of course correct me again if I misstate, but I think that what we've resolved here is that well, let me put it to you this way as a question rather than just making a statement. Do you think it would be fair to say that A&E should have done a little bit better if they were serious about doing this investigation in getting somebody who would have had the qualifications to do a good analysis on this tape?
Yes, I think there's a handful of people that are very well known, extremely skilled, that have been used in investigative interviewing, detecting deception in high-profile cases that are very skilled. I happen to be one of them. There's about a handful of us that specialize in this, and absolutely A&E should have done their homework, and I'm shocked and amazed that they did not. It's equally as disturbing because I, hold a high level of integrity about my work, and I know others like myself do. And when I see this happening, it absolutely infuriates me that we have people out there used as experts when they are not experts at all in the field, and they're out there, in these high-profile cases, and what they say matters, and it can damage people's lives. And so you better know what you're talking about before you go on national TV and start talking about it, and have the expertise to back it up. Otherwise, you could run into a lot of trouble.
Absolutely. Well, Susie, yet again, thank you so much for everything, and I'm going to stop our tape right here. Hang on a quick second.